All right, all right. What's going on for the sake family? I hope I don't sound too choppy. I hope I don't sound. I don't think the hotel internet is doing that well right now. So, pardon me if it's not the best quality, but we're gonna make it do what it do, like we always do. Um, yeah. So go ahead, man. Hit the like button, subscribe, share. As always, it's your boy Polk over here on 86372V. You are tuned in, and just want to do a quick just want to do a quick, just catch up with the people. I know it's a little late. Well, about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, but that's okay. We'll get it. And just want to talk about FSU, man, and they are doing a little bit of stuff on the recruiting trail this year. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the targets they have, and then some kind of some pretty sizable news came out today in regards to the spring game or the lack of a spring game, and I'll talk about that and why that's maybe not the biggest deal as people are trying to make it out to be. Because of course, the Florida State football fan panics about every single thing that happens. So of course, there's going to be panic about what's going on with there being no spring game. Um, do me a favor, man. Again, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, share the video, share the video. Let's get some people in here as we talk this Florida State football talk. We talk about a few guys that they're targeting here at the last minute. Actually landed someone which I didn't even know was an actual 2025 player. I thought he was for next year, but no, they actually landed a DB. I mean, y'all probably already know by now. So we'll get into all of that stuff here very shortly. Again, hit like button, subscribe, and share. We'll wait a little bit longer, see if we can get some more people in here to fill up the chat um, before I get started on the remaining targets left in this recruiting cycle. Um, Again, the lack of a spring game, my thoughts, and then just some, Q&A like we always do. Y'all ask the questions, I'll answer them to the best of my ability. Best of my ability. All right, all right. Let's go ahead and again, I don't like to waste too much time. If people show up, they show up. If not, it's okay. I'll rock with 5 people in here. Don't make me no difference. I'll rock with 10. Don't make me no difference either. So we'll just rock with who we got with. Thanks for showing up again and hit my like button if you can. Please do so. One monkey don't stop no show. And it's an impromptu live stream anyway, so it's not like I advertised it. So here we are. We're just gonna rock with whoever shows up. Um, so we'll start off with Antonio Cromartie Jr. I actually thought he was a 2026, but I was checking, and he's a part of this class. He's actually a part of the 2025 class. Um, I had no idea. I really didn't. I did not know he was in this upcoming class. So FSU adds another DB. Um, you can go ahead and post your thoughts about it below. Again, had no idea, um, but I checked, and he is listed at 20 in the 2025 class, 5'11", 170 pounds from Atlanta, Georgia. Um, as far as his rankings go, not gonna go too far into that because he doesn't have many rankings. I mean, he does have a national rank. If y'all want me to read that out, I surely can. He does have a national rank, at least on three. Let's check 247 real quick. This is the newest addition to the 2025 25 class. I really thought he was in the 26 class. So I was actually surprised when I found out that he was in this class. I thought he had another year of high school, but that just shows how much I paid attention to his. I didn't even know he was, you know, a senior in high school. Promise you, I didn't. And again, if the quality of the video isn't that great, that's blame that on the hotel internet at this point, because that's what it is. Football recruiting. I'm gonna check 247's profile on him, and then we'll get to talking about it. Like even my computer's going slow, so I'm only guessing what the live stream quality is. Team rankings. Florida State still ranks 20th in both on 3 and 247. So that addition did not boost them in the rankings at all. And he is class of 2025, according to both on 3 and 247. 3-star. The composite has him ranked 1,975th player in the country. The on 3. Let's click on him. See what the on 3 industry rank has him. For whatever reason, on 3 is going to this thing where if you don't become a member, they lock you out of the rankings. Just when I was starting to like on 3, they have it's all about the money, right? So if you don't join on 3, they lock you out of all the rankings. At least, I guess, for some prospects, at least what I'm looking at. But the industry ranking, they do have up. On 3 has him as the 2,196th player in the nation. So Crow Jr. has committed. I mean, that's obviously not a player that you're probably expecting much from next year. Obviously, we all know who his dad is. He's the namesake. Stature, say maybe he's a nickel, but we'll see. Maybe there's a growth spurt in there. And what is Antonio Cromartie Sr. like? 6'2", 6'3"? He's a big corner. Maybe Crow Jr. can have the same size. Maybe he's not done growing yet, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with all that. Again, you can post your comments below on him. I'm not going to sit here and out of respect, I won't say anything too egregious, but I'm also not going to sit here and, hype it up as some major get. Good for him. Gets to go to, a program that he grew up around, obviously. And I think his mom is even a Florida State alum. So I know his mom has a pretty big, social media presence. I know he grew up around the university, so it's good to see him in the fold, and I wish nothing but great things for him. But let's see what y'all are talking about. For those that have came and joined us, welcome. He says, "What are your thoughts on Antonio Cromartie Jr.? His dad was one of my all-time favorite Noles. My thoughts are he's gonna be a work in progress, not an instant impact guy, obviously." High profile name. So if we're just gonna talk about it from come on, y'all know how I do. I can only be one way, and I can only be truthful and honest. So if we're gonna talk it from a strictly football perspective, this isn't a player that went under the radar. His name is Antonio Cromartie Jr. I remember seeing stuff on him 2-3 years ago, since he's been in high school. So for him to be ranked where he's at, It's not for lack of training. It's not for lack of like camps. I'm pretty sure he attended as many camps as possible. He's in Atlanta, Georgia. Again, his name is Antonio Cromartie Jr. So, I mean, from a strictly football perspective, it doesn't mean he won't be a good player. Doesn't mean he won't be a great player, but he's not a player that's going to contribute right away, and a player that will need time to develop and get on the field. So, those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts. Vontae says maybe bringing Crow Jr. will help bring Senior into the fold. I mean, maybe. I see this all the time, and my question is always: it has nothing against Antonio Cromartie Sr. What are you bringing him to do? Okay, FSU just hired a new safety coach, and Pat Surtain isn't going anywhere, at least for the foreseeable future. We'll see. I think every offseason you're going to get some rumors about Surtain just because of he's a pretty high-profile coach. And if he continues to recruit at a good clip, he's always going to be a name that pops up. So maybe if you see Surtain go elsewhere, then that move makes sense. But as long as you have Surtain as your DB coach, what are you bringing? Would Crow want an off-field role? Maybe he would. I'm not saying he wouldn't. Does Antonio Cromartie want to coach in an off-field role? If so, I don't see the issue with it. But as long as Patrick Surtain is your DB coach, or can Crow coach another position? Maybe. Don't know. Momo says we are DBU, so we can definitely develop him. Well, let's see. Let's see how that plays out, because one thing I will say is FSU has a wide open secondary. I don't plan on talking the roster in this live stream, but I mean, obviously, y'all know how we do. We kind of jump around topics and conversations. It's a wide open DB room this year. With AZ leaving and Fentrell gone, nobody really knows what the starting DBs look like. We have guesses. Like a lot of people think Q probably moves into that role. Edwin should have a say so. Will Lester emerge or Kai Bates emerge? Like we got guys, right? We got guys, and including the freshmen like Zay, Thomas. So we got players. And it's one position that I think if you didn't attack in the portal, you can look at it from both sides of the coin as far as what they didn't do or did do in the portal. And DB wise, I see arguments for both sides. You don't really have a veteran corner. Your safety room's a little different. I think you got a little bit more experience there. But you don't really have a veteran corner in that room. Should they have went and maybe searched for one in the portal? Me personally, I'm on the other side of it, though. Again, I see the argument for that side. I'm on the other side of it. That's the one position on this team that you can argue they've recruited at a decent clip, above average clip, especially last year's class with Bates, Howard, and Lester. Like you recruited that position. I'm even forgetting like Ricky Knight. Like there's guys in that defensive backfield. We talk about development, like you're saying, where DBU, that's the case, Momo, then we should have no problem finding corners for this upcoming season, because you've recruited the position, you've recruited highly at the position, some pretty good players. FSU should be able to find guys to fill in for AZ, not just fill in, but take over for the guys that we're going to be losing, because they have recruited the players. Jason says stars don't mean jack. When it comes to Crow, he will be in the rotation at nickel as a true freshman. Mark it down. I love the optimism. I also love when people say stars don't mean anything until they mean anything. That's always been my take on the stars. Stars never mean anything until they mean something, right? Stars don't mean jack for Antonio Cromartie Jr. Fair enough. Not going to argue with you. But when you get Kevin Wynn, stars mean a lot then, right? The stars matter when you get a Kevin Wynn. I know, right? The stars matter when you get Chroma. Those stars are valid. But, when you get a guy that – I get it. So, shout out to Jason. Donald, what's good with you? Loden says, went to school with Crow. He was 6'3". Yeah, Crow's a big corner, man. I know, he's a big corner. His rankings have a lot to do with his size. Plus, his dad says they didn't make many camps. And then Donald says, do you think about prime time go to Dallas? I'm happy, a little bit mad. I'd like to see him at FSU. I think we'd have been damn good at FSU. Well, you know the funny thing about that, and I don't know if Dion ends up taking a job. I know the rumors are getting pretty hot and heavy for Dion looking at other jobs. I'm going to put a link in the chat, and it's a link of a video I did in Dion's first year at Colorado, or before Dion coached his first year at Colorado. And the only reason I'm putting this in the chat, I said then, like, I don't think it's a coincidence that Shedur's leaving, Hunter's leaving, and now Dion's name is popping up for these other jobs. Because I said in that video then, and caught a lot of heat for it. People said, you don't know what you're talking about. You sound ridiculous. I said, the way Dion's building a roster, the way Dion is building his roster, looks to me like he will not be around for the long term at Colorado. Well, is it me, or does that look like it's playing out in front of our eyes? Again, don't know. Dion got signed a big-time quarterback out of high school. Isn't it Juju Smith? I think that's who he signed. I forget the name of the kid, but he was committed to USC, decommitted, and Dion locked him up. Here's the video. I'm just going to put this video in the I'm just going to put this video here in the chat in case nobody, somebody actually wants to go back and watch what I said. Y'all can go back and watch it. So for me, a lot of it makes sense of what's happening with Dion right now. Son's moving on. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. You got to, well, of course, all of them are only there for him. So, absolutely. Yeah, exactly, Momo. Until it's players like Ramsey or Joyner or Jameis Winston, the stars don't matter until they matter. So, that's fine. Again, I wish the best for Crow. I hope he gets it done. Just, again, not a guy that I expect to contribute day one, but we'll see what does. Because, like I said, there's roster spots open in that secondary. So I think somebody said he would be in the rotation at slot as a true freshman. He may very well possibly be. He may very well be in that. He may very well get a chance. So we will see what happens. We see what happens. Ani says, Crowman win are good gets because they can play, not because of how many stars they have, just by the number of 3 stars in the league. Just by the numbers, there are more 3 stars in the league than 5 stars. You do know why. If we're going to have a real conversation about that, Ferguson, that's because there are more 3 stars in general across the rankings. Your 5 stars make up 1 through 20, 1 through 25, 1 through 30. Everything after that is 4 and 3 stars. Your 3 stars start from the 300-something ranked player all the way down to the 2,000th ranked player. Of course there's more 3 stars because there's more 3 stars. Of course. Your 5 stars is an elite small talent pool. So yes, there are more 3 stars in the league than 5 stars, just by sheer numbers. Like, come on. Make it make sense. Or I can make it make sense. Again, do you think the stars don't matter? Or the stars matter because Crowman and Wynn can play, so they have legit stars? Like, again, we're not going to get in the stars debate because I know how that ends. At the end of the day, Antonio Cromartie is the newest addition to the tribe of 25. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, as we move on, FSU is also targeting at least 3 other high-profile players that I'm aware of. I don't know if they're targeting more, but I know for a fact, and we'll start with this young man, Chaston Brown, was committed to UCF, decommitted shortly after Gus Malzahn stepped down as the UCF head coach and then took the offensive coordinator job here. And very different profiles 247 thinks higher of him than On Three does. On Three has him as a 3-star. Sorry, their industry ranking has him as the 418th player in the country. And they also only have him listed at 235 pounds. So you're talking about an offensive tackle, 6'7". So you got to love the length, but he's built like a power forward. If this is accurate. Now, 247 has Chasten Brown at 6'7", 270. So that makes you a little bit more comfortable. But either way, this is not a guy that you have immediate dividends. But 247 thinks a little bit higher of him. They have him as a 4-star and the 351st player in the country. And again, they have him listed at 270 from Warner Robins, Georgia. I love the length, obviously. I think this is a good take. You need offensive linemen. You need young guys that you can, if Herb Hand is who we have been led to believe, this is a player that you can, or a coach that should be able to develop some of these young men. And so you love the length. Obviously, you got to put weight on him. But again, that's not a guy that you're expecting to come in and play right away. And again, was committed to UCF, decommit. Now I think he's being crystal balled to Florida State by, I forget who put the crystal ball in. Someone in 247. I think it was Zach. I think Zach put in the crystal ball for him. I don't remember exactly who did it. But this is a guy that I do expect him to close on. I mean, the moment he decommitted from UCF, I think a lot of people thought, it all shifted to Florida State. And FSU needs all the help on the O-line they can get. And so this is a player that Florida State should be closing on here. And it'll add to your recruiting rankings. And for 247's sake, they're going to have him as a 4-star. So it'll help with that. If you look at the class that they already have signed right now on the offensive line, you got Mario Nash. You have. So one of the issues, I think, with the current, they're all going to be developmental guys. Like even Mario Nash, listed at 280 pounds. You go to the next offensive lineman here in this class, Sean Porrett, 3-star. He's listed at 270 pounds. And he's an interior guy, right? Those are really the only two guys in the high school ranks that they have signed in this recruiting cycle. So being able to add 2 more guys, it looks like they're going to try to at least add 2 more players to offensive linemen to this class. And of course, we know about the big time portal hauls that they landed, but we're talking high school in this live stream. They so all of these guys are just going to be developmental guys that you're going to sit for a year or 2 or however long it takes and see if you can get them dividends paid out. Again, this is a guy that I think that they're gonna end up getting his commitment. I don't know if he's going to wait till the actual national signing day or if he'll announce that early. At this point, I guess, if he's going to probably want his moment, so he probably waits till national signing day. Next up on that list, we're going to stay on the offensive side of the ball. And we're going to go to interior guys. Let me find them. I should have had them pulled up already, but, I did not. This is a kid who – now this kid's a listing. When you talk about he's not a high-rated guy. Let me see if I can find him. But he's a center, interior lineman. They have him. I think his official position again is an interior lineman. He was committed to Oregon. I can't find his name. I can't find him. Somebody give me his name, because I forget his name. I'm not gonna lie to you, I forgot his name. There he is. Never mind. I found him. Sandman Thompson. Currently committed to FIU. Well, I actually think he's decommitted from FIU. Was committed to FIU. He is out of Florida. Now he's only listed at 6 foot or 6'1", 310. But again, that center. Again, was committed to Oregon. So here's the interesting thing about this particular prospect. You got a guy who was committed to Oregon, and you go, okay, he's committed to Oregon and decommits, right? And decommits to FIU of all places, right? He decommits to FIU. Let me bring him up on 247 because I just don't like the way On3 has stuff laid out. I think he has over 25 offers. Now, the reason I bring that up, because you go, well, how do you decommit from Oregon just to go to FIU? What it says to me, again, this is just me, says to me that some of these offers probably weren't committable. When he got those offers, my guess is, he's a younger player, and I think teams offered him early, thinking maybe he'd grow, but he's only 6 foot, 6'1", depending on who you believe. And though the offer sheet looks well, the fact that you would have all those offers and choose FIU, now maybe there's something at FIU at the time that I'm not aware of, but the fact that that's kind of where you ended up tells me that maybe that I think it's pretty obvious, right? You got pushed out of that Oregon class, and it's probably pretty obvious that you didn't maybe have a bunch of committable offers after it was all said and done. I'm trying to find them on 247 so I can actually look at his offer sheet. Boom, boom, boom. He's actually ranked behind Sean Porrett, believe it or not. I don't see him. Well, we're still on Terminal. Is he this far down on 247? Maybe 247 doesn't think too highly of him. I found him on 3, but I can't find him on 247. I can't bring up his offer sheet on 3. Wow, he's really. Let's just go back to we'll go back to on 3. I mean, on 3 has him. He's out of Melbourne, Florida. On 3 shows Miami offered, UCS offered. We'll go back to his profile here. Oregon obviously offered at one point. Here, let me click all team. Okay, here we go. Here's it. So his offer sheet is pretty extensive. I mean, you're talking he has offers from Miami, Oregon, Tennessee, Penn State, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Maryland, Indiana, West Virginia, Pitt, Iowa State, Louisville. Right, those are the big schools. He has so he had a decent amount of offers, but again, if you're telling me that he committed to FIU after decommitting from Oregon, I got to ask, did Penn State really want him? Did Tennessee really want him? Did Ole Miss really want him? You can argue with me if you want. I believe that a lot of those offers probably weren't committable at that point. And so that's why he ended up FIU. Now Florida State's giving him a committable offer, and it's pretty obvious that it looks like decommitting from FIU look maybe to be FSU's Florida State center of the future. And I think FSU is going to land this commitment. So I think FSU is going to add 2 offensive linemen here in the near future. Again, both project guys, both guys that you don't expect to contribute day one, but nice additions, guys that you can, build and see what you're getting potentially in the future. Um, Ahmad says, out of all the DBs we got right now, who do you think has the potential to be the next great FSU DB? Great question. Don't know. Would love to see some of these guys in action, right? Um, why the heck would he pick FIU? I don't know if he had many committable offers. But again, that's just me speculating. I don't know. Again, when I read off his offer sheet, there's a bunch of them. He's got pretty damn good offers. I mean, again, Oregon, Tennessee. I mean, some of these guys were in the playoffs. Oregon, Tennessee, and Penn State. Those are all playoff teams. Ole Miss was just on the out to the playoff, and they dominated Duke in their bowl game. A quarterbackless Duke, but they beat a 10-win Duke team nonetheless. Indiana, that's another playoff team that offered him. So he had some solid offers if he wanted to go there. He also had offers from UAB, Marshall, Middle Tennessee, Troy, Toledo, right? So he had a good mix of offers here. But he committed to FIU for whatever reason. And it looks like FSU will probably be getting a commitment from him here in the upcoming future. Again, don't have a problem with the take. At this point, now you're filling out a roster. I think at this point, that's FSU's kind of landed the big fish, though I think there's two potential big-time gets. One more likely than the other. I'm not sure they get either one, but we'll talk about those here in a second. At this point, I think you're just trying to fill out You're just trying to fill out the roster at this point, right? And these are guys that'll, at worst, right? They're guys that'll give you some scout team look. They're guys that you can fill out a roster, scout team, develop them. Doesn't mean they won't be future players. Strictly speaking of the two offensive linemen, not so much speaking of Antonio Cromartie Jr., though he may also be a guy that plays scout team or whatever they decide to do with him. It's going to be interesting to see where that plays out for him. So that's Sandman Thompson. Next up on that list, I want to talk about, this is one of the big fish, okay? I was actually shocked to find out FSU was like even still in the running for this player, to be quite honest with you. But we're going to say on the offensive side of the ball, I think this is Michigan all the way. He's decommitted from Alabama. Again, I think this is Michigan. If my computer starts acting slow. But y'all should know the name of the player. It's Tai Haywood, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Tai Haywood out of Denton, Texas. On 3 has him, 247 I'm looking at right now, has him at the 5-star. Top 20 player in the country. 6'5", 285. Number 4 overall offensive tackle in the country. And again, Florida State's in the mix, apparently. They're in this top 4. I think it's Michigan, Mississippi State, Texas Tech, and Florida State. Now, Texas Tech has been spending big money down the stretch here, so you can't count them out. Michigan seems like the odds-on favorite here, as they have the quarterback maybe that they can pair with a player like this, and they've got the history, right, of developing the offensive lineman that you send up there. Again, out of Denton, Texas. Interesting to see that a Texas kid, and you got Texas A&M, but no UT there, so that's interesting. I would love to sit here and tell you, I think Florida State has a real shot at them, and if they're in the top 4, I guess they have a shot at them. I just have a hard time seeing it going this way. I think the only thing that's kept Florida State in this battle is Alex Atkins isn't listed as his primary recruiter. Chris Thompson is actually listed as his primary recruiter. If you can get this guy on campus before the signing day, maybe I'll believe more. But his last visit was in June. So he didn't visit at all during the season, according to what I'm reading here. Last visit was June 21st. So if you can't get him on campus before the period, I guess I don't feel too good about it. I'm sure he's taken visits, and again, he's got offers from everywhere, but from what I saw, it's Michigan, Mississippi State, Texas Tech, and Florida State. Alabama was listed, but you got to think if he didn't decommit from Bama to go back to Bama, I don't believe. So Tai Haywood's like one of the big ones. He's one of the big ones left. He's one of the big fish that's left. One of the whales out there. So someone's going to get a good one come the signing day. And FSU's in the mix, so we got to talk about it. What are you guys' thoughts on him? Does FSU really have a legit chance? Let's see what On3 says about him. Does FSU have a legit chance of landing this one? I mean, I want to be optimistic. And again, it says Chris Thompson is his primary recruiter. So what does that mean? Can you get where does Herb Hand play in that role? Does he have a relationship with Herb? On3 actually has him listed at 297. So On3 has him a little bit bigger than 247 does at 297. They also have him about a quarter of an inch shorter. They have him so, but that's neither here nor there, I think. On3, they're kind of leaning toward, I mean, they have him at Alabama, but I think that they haven't updated that because he's decommitted from Bama. And again, I don't see him decommitting from Bama just to go back to Bama. Unless he's trying to up the price, and maybe that's the play. Maybe that's the way to get Bama to pay him more money. That's always possible in today's day and age of recruiting and high school football. But again, I think Michigan has to be the team to beat if we're just looking at it from the outside. What I do like what On3 does, they have – so he's already visited – he visited Michigan. So he visited Michigan. So that's why he visited Michigan, or he's scheduled to visit Michigan on the 16th. And he's decommitted before visiting Michigan. So the stars are kind of aligning there. He doesn't have any other visits scheduled in the new year. So, yeah, the last visit was at Florida State back in June. He visited Michigan. He will visit Michigan on the 16th of this month. Now, again, if Florida State can get a visit locked in, I'll feel better. Until then, it is what it is. One of the positives, if you're looking at kind of the teams that are still kind of in the mix, is he's visited Florida State more than Michigan. He has visited Florida State twice. He's visited Bama 3 times, but again, he decommitted from there. He visited Oklahoma 3 times, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of buzz around Oklahoma. I mean, the last time he even visited Oklahoma was back in 2023. So let's scratch Oklahoma out. Florida State right now holds the edge in the amount of visits. He's been to Florida State twice. Well, he's only ever been to Michigan once, but he will be at Michigan twice. Again, if Florida State can get a visit, I'll feel better. But you're decommitting right before a Michigan visit. I don't know. Maybe the stars are kind of aligning for that commitment on that night, but we'll see what happens we'll see what happens. Don't want to get anybody's hype or hopes up. Don't want to hype it up. Again, reading the tea leaves kind of tells you how this ends up. If he doesn't commit on the 16th, it doesn't say how long he's going to stay. So if he doesn't commit, maybe you have a chance to get a visit scheduled. And if you're Florida State and you can actually get a visit scheduled after the fact, then I do think you kind of like your chances more. But until that happens, there's nothing much I can really say to give you any kind of hope, Florida State fans. I think, again, the writing's on the wall here, but it's player worth talking about because he has Florida State listed. Just to disappoint us, I'm sure, but he does have the Noles listed. What's going on, Peter? Giuseppe says, well, if those schools, he's talking about Sandman here, if those schools went after him, I'm sure he's got to be legit to some degree. He had a lot of offers, I agree. It's just weird that he had those offers and he chose FIU. Again, I think some of those offers weren't buying. I don't think he had a lot of committable offers. Mike Norvell sucks so bad. If we land him, is he an instant impact player? Might be a dumb question, but I'm not familiar with him. If you're talking about Tai Haywood, a player of that caliber, it's hard for me to say no. Now, you did go and you got all of these veteran offensive linemen out of the portal. But as notable, there's one position on the O-line that hasn't quite filled. Now, we think it's going to be Richie Leonard. Now, if you get a guy like Ty, obviously he's got to get on campus, and we got to see, is he actually ready to play? Or, again, 247 has him listed at 285, but on 3 has him listed at 297, which means that's more of early time playing weight, right? Closer to 300 pounds he is probably more likely he would be to have a chance to be an early player. Could you move Gunner? I think his name, right? Is his name Gunner Hintz, the other offensive tackle that Florida State brought from Vanderbilt? Could you move him into guard and maybe play Ty at the tackle spot? Potentially. He would be the closest thing to an instant impact guy, probably. Well, I think Cromartie is going to be early playing, though I don't know if he's going to be instant impact. I think Cromartie's going to have opportunity, obviously. And then I think Kevin Wynn also. He'll be in the mix for one of those guys that you think might be able to get on the field early. Langston says, I can't understand why they don't want a spring game. We'll talk about the spring game here in a minute. It's not about want. It's about, again, I think people are panicking on the spring game, but I'll talk about that here in a second. Sports Mark says he's going to Michigan. I think so, too. And Michigan offered a Brinks truck for Haywood. Yeah, for sure. I'm sure they did. I mean, we already know what they offered the number 1 quarterback and number 1 overall player in the country, Bryce Underwood. And everybody knows how that played out. And Bryce Underwood says right here, got 2.9 in NIL. Can you believe Carson Beck got $4 million allegedly? Shout out to Miami. Paid $4 million for Carson Beck. Good for them. So yeah, Michigan's probably definitely offering the money there, but we'll see. We'll see how that recruitment. We'll see how that one plays out. We'll keep our fingers crossed, but maybe not our hopes up on Ty. Again, I'll be more excited. I'll be more excited when the 16th comes and goes, and if he can schedule a Florida State visit. I'll be more excited then. Last but not least, on the potential targets going into the signing day, there is one more player, and I think he's a pretty good one. Let's see how Pot Roast Knighton, of course, former Ohio State commit. They have him listed as edge player Zahir Mathis, 6'6", 225 on 247. Pretty sure on 3 has him listed as a bit heavier. Let me find his on 3 profile here real quick. Let's find Zahir Mathis. Where is he? Why don't I see him? On 3, man, I swear. This website, just the way they have it, just kills me. Football recruiting. Let's go to player rankings. But yeah, while I bring that up, he's from Philadelphia. Emotep Institute. Shout out to that. But composite 247 has him as they have him as a top 75 player on the composite, the number 6 edge, and again 73rd overall player. You know, that's a damn good player. Got to think Michigan might be going 2-for-0 on us. And again, that's not even. I mean, it's Michigan. I know they won the Natty a year ago. They didn't have a great season this year, but it's obviously that they are investing the money to get back to that. as you've seen what they did potentially with Tai Haywood. We'll see how that plays out. But obviously with Bryce Underwood, and now it looks like here with Zahir Mathis, they are also going to try to pay a lot of money. On three is a little bit lower on him, as they have him as 119th ranked player overall. Still a good player. You're still talking about a top 100, top 125 guy. Again, decommitted from Ohio State, so it kind of only makes sense for him to give it to Ohio State by picking Michigan. I think Penn State might also be in the running here. I mean, he's from Philadelphia. Yeah, and you know, Penn State has a history with those edge players, man. They also on three has him listed as a little bit taller, but only 200. That's big, but he is a guy that's going to bring a lot of length. At 6'6", probably fit the role that you lost, or he'll fit right in with the guys you've already brought in, the Tylan Lees, maybe you know, D.D. Holmes doesn't hurt as much, which I know they brought in the guy from Charlotte, is it right? So one of those kind of hybrid, I think, edge defensive end type players where he could probably stand them up if you need to. Me personally, like if Terrence Knighton wants to prove he's that guy, I think if you can close in on him. 247 says it's a Michigan, UCLA, Florida State battle. Again, I think it's Michigan. Has to be the favorite. Now, he actually has visited Florida State. He visited Florida State on the 10th. He'll be visiting UCLA next. And Michigan, it gets his last visit on the 27th. Now, here's the problem. In the portal, this doesn't mean as much. I don't believe so. Matter of fact, I would argue when it comes to the transfer portal, my argument is where guys go first probably is where they want to go. That seems to be the trend with the transfer portal, right? The first place a guy goes visit in the transfer portal, that's usually the place he wants to be. That's the team he wants to check out first. In high school, the rule of thumb has always been in high school, you get the last visit. You get that last visit. He's the last thing on your mind before he makes that decision. You bring out all the bells and whistles. Michigan gets the last visit on January 27th. Florida State got the first visit. So take that for what it's worth. Do you think the first visit was more beneficial, or do you think it's going to be the last visit? Again, if I'm Michigan and I get them at the last minute, I don't let them leave my campus without a commitment. So but this would be a good get for Florida State if they are able to secure that. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. $4 million for Carson Beck. Who do I think the starting secondary is going to be? At this point, man, I don't have a clue. But again, we'll see how Terrence Knighton kind of secures this recruitment up, if he can, and what that looks like. That's kind of what recruiting's looking like going into the not the early signing day, but the actual signing day. You know, signing day is not looked at as important as it used to look, but those early, because the early signing day takes all the flair out of national signing day. But FSU's got a few targets down the list here for National Signing Day. So we'll see how it plays out for them. They got some, again, I think if you look at it right now, there's 4 potential guys. We talked about Sandman. We talked about who's the kid from UCF. I forget his name just that quick. Then you got Mathis, and then you got Haywood. I think if you go 2 for 4, that's about the best. I don't want to say it's the best case scenario, but that should probably be what you're expecting. You should probably be expecting to finish with 2 out of those 4, and the 2 being those 2 offensive linemen, the one that decommitted from FIU, the one that decommits from UCF. That's probably what you'd be expecting. Again, if the Quality of the choppy. Blame internet at the hotel. That's just what it is. I appreciate you, brother Brooklyn. I appreciate you. Last thing here, I'm not going to stay on here too long tonight, but I do want to touch on kind of the big news that came out today, and that is that there will be no spring showcase. No spring showcase this year. And they said it's because of the renovations at Doak Campbell, which makes sense to me. You don't want to postpone those renovations more than you need to. They would obviously, I don't know when it's scheduled to be done, but you want to finish it. My guess is try to finish it before the start of next year. I don't know. Again, I don't know when it's scheduled to be complete. But my guess is, again, that you want to try to schedule it before the start of next year, or try to have it finished. They said that they did say that they tried to move it, but I guess there's some new NCAA rules that would make them lose a couple work days if they were to move the spring to like a different location. That they would have to lose some days of work, meaning some practices. And my guess is they didn't want to do that. Two things here. Who cares about the spring showcase? I've been on the record. I don't care about it. I don't like the way FSU runs their spring since Mike Norvell's been here. We don't do a traditional spring game anyway. We do a bunch of BS as far as I'm concerned. That doesn't, in my opinion, right, doesn't really translate to like anything that happens in an actual football game. So I've never been a fan of it. They don't line up the best versus, they don't line up good on good and play a traditional game. So for me, it don't matter because I've never been a fan of it. And I think people are making way too big of a deal about it because in nowhere does it say there won't be a spring and there won't be spring games and there won't be spring practices and there won't be spring scrimmage. Like they're still going to practice. They're still going to put work in. They're still going to scrimmage. You just won't be able to buy tickets and go to them, which is, again, not a big deal in my opinion. The spring showcase was I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was. Having Danny Cannell and these people call play. Like, I don't care about any of that crap, personally. Again, that's just me. Don't care about the spring showcase. And here's what I know. They're still going to practice. They're still going to have a traditional spring practices. They're still going to have the scrimmage. They're still going to scrimmage. So they're still going to put in the work in the spring. At the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, hell, keep all that shit a secret until you play Alabama. This is going to make the Alabama game more intriguing. And I'll tell you what else is going to do. It's going to make a lot of y'all subscribe to 247 and War Chant even more because they're going to try to give you all the tidbits from the spring. And because we're not going to get that spring game televised, y'all going to take for word what they tell you. And I'm not saying you're wrong for that because you gotta have something to go off in the spring when you can't actually watch the team, right? So I expect those subscriptions to drive up for those guys, and shout out to those guys for getting that. But ultimately, they're still gonna put in the work. Now, will it translate to actually winning football games next year? Well, that remains to be seen, Mike Norvell. That's all on you. But for people panicking, like, oh, there's not going to be a spring. There's going to be a spring. There's just not going to be a spring game that you get to watch on TV, on the god-awful ACC network. And, like, nothing about that pisses me off. I'm happy. The spring showcase itself was much to do about nothing because of the way it's ran. And then number two, the ACC network is a total cluster. Every time the spring game comes on the ACC network, is either coming on late behind like a lacrosse game. We're busy watching lacrosse because they go into overtime, and ACC rather show lacrosse instead of showing, I don't know, Florida State football. And untimely commercials, bad camera angles. Like, nothing about this is a big deal to me. Nothing about it. They're going to practice. They're going to run their scrimmages. They're going to do everything that they have been doing in the previous springs. You're just not going to have that glorified, whatever you want to call that, glorified drills on TV, because that's really all they run in these showcases. You get very rarely do you get actually good on good. You get punt return drills. I mean, y'all know it because y'all watch it every year just like I do. So I'm not going to miss the spring showcase this year. I promise you that. And I would advise Florida State fans to not care, because you're not going to miss the spring showcase either. You're not. You're not going to miss it. Half of y'all claim y'all don't like it, just like I don't like it. So anybody that's panicking about it because they think, oh, there just won't be a spring, yeah, that's not the case. Now, do I know that for a fact? No. But a thinking man, a logical human being, I'd bet a lot of money that FSU's still going to hold a traditional spring schedule, just without the showcase. You think FSU's going to be sitting on the sidelines when they have an indoor practice facility and they still have the practice field? You think they're just going to be sitting on the sidelines while everybody else in the country is doing work in the spring? If Mike Norvell is worth half the damn that some of y'all say he is, that damn sure can't happen. That damn sure can't happen. So no, spring showcase will be just we just won't see that garbage. FSU will be practicing. FSU will be scrimmaging. You just won't see any of it. Instead, you'll have to read about it on Twitter and 247, and you'll have to listen to the people that you've grown to love and hate tell you Thomas Castellanos looks like the second coming of Michael Vick. That's what they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you that Deuce Robinson looks like Kelvin Benjamin. They're going to hype it. They're going to tell you that everybody looks amazing. Maybe they'll be right. I'm not here to say that they're going to be wrong. Well, I'm just telling you, and you're not going to miss anything ultimately from the spring showcase. So that's my thoughts on that. I don't know if y'all want to hear anything else, but I got a little bit more time. Feel free to hit me up with some questions. 50 people in here. Hit the like. Little impromptu live. So not a big audience in here tonight, but that's okay. Not a big deal. And go ahead, hit some. We got some questions for your boy. Now you can ask about anything. You can ask about secondary stuff. You can ask about whatever you want to ask now. And I'll try my best to answer it to the best of my abilities. Those are the main talking points that I wanted to take away from all the news that has came out. Again, FSU's trying to close decent. I mean, they already closed pretty strong in the early signing period. They're trying to close pretty strong here on the signing day. And we saw they had, in my opinion, was a successful transfer portal haul. Nothing too crazy in the transfer portal, but they definitely, in my opinion, filled needs, recruited guys that fit scheme. Got a lot of length on defense. Got your big body receiver, paired him with a smaller receiver, but fast, shifty guy. They didn't add a running back. That might be a cause for concern, but there's also the spring portal that will open up, and maybe they can add a running back there. The only reason I think the running back room is talented personally. The problem is, in that running back room, there's no veteran. I mean, you still have Keziah, hasn't hit the portal. You still have Roydell, hasn't hit the portal. So theoretically, you do have some veterans in that room. I think a lot of Florida State fans will tell you that they probably don't want to see either of those guys. Though if I had to pick, I'd much rather see Keziah at least get that chance. If it was me personally, I would love to see Keziah get an opportunity. So you have a big running back room. You have the young guys are the guys that you think have all the talent. The Danzies, the Chromas, I mean, even the Singletons. I mean, even Cam Davis, even though I've been a little hard on Cam because I don't know if he has it. That doesn't mean he can't be a good player. I just don't know if he has it, right? But yeah, I like the running back room. I do worry that there's a veteran guy there that you can kind of count on, right? Though you do have two veterans there. Well, maybe they can have some bounce back. You also have Jalen Lucas, so I always forget. about Jalen Lucas because I don't know if I see him as a traditional running back and more of a gadget guy. But he's also a veteran in that room. He's also undersized. So they didn't add a running back. That's probably the only thing that would concern me as far as transfer portal. But you got your backers. Again, defenses, you got a bunch of length on defense. You didn't add any secondary players, but I don't really think you needed to. You got receivers, rehauled the entire O-line for the most part. Got your quarterback, for better or worse. Some people love it. Some people aren't a fan of it. Thomas has a chance to prove the people that don't have a fan of it. Got a chance to shut him up because he's going to be QB1. Only other concern with that is who the hell's quarterback to? FSU hasn't had good quarterback injury luck the last 2 years. We know I ended up having to Jordan Travis, where they used that as the excuse to keep us out, which we all know was bull. And then last year, that quarterback room was just a revolving door from terrible play to injuries. The way Thomas Castellanos plays, you got to consider the fact that he's undersized, does run a lot. Is Brock Glenn the second option going into next year? If it is, then God have mercy on our souls. But that might be the case. It might be that Brock Glenn is the guy. We got to see how maybe the backup quarterback position plays out. But other than that, let's see what we got here. Speak on Dion leaving. Again, I talked about that a little bit at the beginning. Not a surprise to me. And I posted the link to the video in the chat where I said 2 years ago when he took the job at Colorado and I saw the way he was moving when he completely rehauled a roster by bringing in like 60-something portal players or whatever it was he brought in. I said, that's not a guy that's prepping to build a roster. He's prepping to build a roster right now. And now he has signed, again, he signed a quarterback out of this year's class that you got to think, that guy doesn't come to Colorado if it's not for him, right? Does he leave that kid high and dry? Well, with today's rules, is it really leaving him high and dry? Because with today's rules, he'll be if Dion takes a job in May for the Cowboys or whoever's telling him that they're going to draft Shedeur and Dion goes there, because the Raiders also fired their coach. I don't know if anybody's paid attention to that. Could Shedeur go to Vegas? I could see it. I don't know what Vegas's pick is, but I don't think Shedeur's not gonna get picked over Cam Ward. Let me see where Las Vegas. Let me look at the NFL draft right now, since we're just talking Dion at the moment and potential draft spots. Because I don't think you can count out the Raiders, and I'm obviously the Cowboys. As we know, Dion has history with the Cowboys and Texas, and he would love for that. I'm sure he would love. But right now, the Titans have the first pick, then the Browns, then the Giants, Patriots, Jaguars, Raiders at 6, Cowboys at 12. Now, you got to look at it. I don't know where Shedeur is being projected. But is Tennessee going to take Cam Ward? You got to think Cam Ward at this point is the first quarterback off the board. Let's look at a mock draft. Let's look at Sports Illustrated has a mock draft. We'll just take a look at that right now because I'm curious. And again, I think all of this has to do with Dion and his potentially leaving. Okay, that is not what I was looking for. Mock draft. Okay, here we go. So again, we already went through the top picks. So they got Tennessee taking Cam Ward number 1. Makes sense. Travis Hunter to Cleveland at 2. Shedeur to the Giants. So if that happens, I think Dion stays at Colorado. 1, I don't think the Giants are firing their coach. Somebody want to correct me if I'm wrong there. And then I'm not. Here's the thing, and I think Dion and this is just one mock draft. It doesn't, obviously none of this is set in stone. And here's the thing. If Dion is indeed trying to follow his son to the NFL, expect them to play the Eli Manning type game where they tell a, and I don't know if the Giants or the Browns or one of these organizations will be that, but they'll play the game of like, you can draft us, but we're not going here type of deal. That may very well be the case. If he falls to 6, I don't see how the Raiders pass up a Zahir Sanders. And again, they don't have a coach right now. If he falls to 6. And the only thing about Dallas is I know they signed Dak to some big money. But there's some other teams here like the Jets. If you're the Jets, why, now Jets pick after the Raiders, but you're talking about teams that need quarterbacks. Like I think New England's going to give Drake May a fair shot, so I don't expect New England to draft a quarterback. Tennessee, they'll take Cam Ward. Cleveland, I think I saw something that Deshaun Watson is like hurt again. I think he tore an ACL, or I think Deshaun Watson is hurt again. Even though Jameis is there, but Jameis is going to throw for 5 touchdowns and also give you 4 picks. But he's fun as hell to watch. Cleveland to probably look at a quarterback, but they got him taking Travis Hunter. Interesting to see where Hunter goes for sure. Yeah, the Giants need a quarterback, right? But is Zahir on their radar? It's going to be interesting. The draft's going to be interesting, especially with some of the guys that we expected to be in the draft coming back. Like Quinn Edwards probably doesn't declare for the NFL. Probably comes back to college. Carson Beck, we already know, is coming back to college. I don't see like a Dylan Gabriel even in the top 20-something picks. So how is he even being graded? Like, and again, that's just one mock draft. I can try to find another one, and then we'll move on to another topic. But here, let me click on this one just to see what their thought process is. See, this mock draft has them taking Travis Hunter, has Tennessee taking Hunter, number 1. And then the Browns taking the Arizona wide receiver. And then the Giants, they're taking – so this mock has Zahir as a first quarterback off the board. And then Cam Ward going to the Raiders. Jalen Milroe. Did Jalen Milroe declare for the draft, or is he coming back to Alabama? I think he did declare for the draft. I'd be shocked if a team took him that high. They have him going at 9. I wouldn't touch Jalen Milroe with a 12-inch pole. What other quarterback? They don't have any other quarterbacks going. And again, with the expectation that guys, well, they have Quinn Edwards at 21, but Quinn Edwards hasn't made a decision on what he's doing yet. And but you might have the Syracuse QB who might shock people and get up into that first round mix. You might have a guy like Will Howard. We'll see how he ends his career at, has his draft stock improved by playing with Ohio State and throwing the ball to Jeremiah Smith and those other talented receivers at Ohio State. So we'll see how it plays out, man. We'll see how it plays out. But that's my thoughts on Dion. If he does leave, he's gonna follow his son. And again, this is something I speculated years ago when I said Dion was here for a short time, not a long time. And it looks like it might play out that way. How do you feel about this team's strength next year, offense or defense? I think as it stands right now, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell either way. I like the additions they made on defense. I think the defense has the chance for the biggest improvement, which is kind of weird to say because it's a whole new scheme and these things. But I like the additions on defense because I just like the fits that they added on defense, if it makes sense. And if there's one thing they've recruited well is that defensive secondary, right? I think that's probably the most talented group on the roster. Maybe running back could maybe give them a run, but I think that secondary. So if you can get pressure, at least create havoc, that secondary might have a chance to shine, cause some turnovers. You might have one of those types of defenses. I kind of look at that. Offensively, it all is going to boil down to the identity. Early on, it looks like a running team. They've retooled the O-line, but you got to see how that O-line plays together. Yeah, you got a lot of players individually that have graded out pretty good individually. Can you get them to mesh and play together? I don't expect like a major passing attack. Not with the quarterback you brought in. Doesn't mean they won't take their shots, but there'll be a big play passing game. Not necessarily a team that's going to. They shouldn't be a team that's dropping back 30 plus times and trying to pick apart defenses. It should be run, play action, RPO, these type of things. We've seen that be successful under Mike Norvell, but I have reservations on the quarterback. I won't believe in the O-line until I see it. That's just me personally. And so I think early on the strength has got to lean towards the defense. But we'll see what Gus and company do. Seeing how things have played out with the portal in the high school recruiting. Coming into, what's your early prediction for? I can't give a prediction yet. Usually I don't give a prediction this early anyway. And I'm not going to give one quite yet because the roster's not quite finished. Though I think for the most part, what you're seeing is kind of what you're getting. There's still potential for guys to enter. And the spring's going to hit, and guys aren't going to maybe win jobs or get certain places and might have a chance elsewhere to go. I can tell you what needs to be. But every time I say that, it doesn't make people happy. Because 6 or 7 wins ain't gonna cut it. They better FSU better be at worst a 9-win team, but they better be a 10-win team competing for at least fighting to get into the ACC championship and getting a potential playoff spot. And I'm not even trying to be funny when I say that. See this face? That is a dead serious face. I'm not trying to stack the odds against. It is year 6, ladies and gentlemen. It is year 6. I'm not going to sit here and start all over at 6, 7 games. That's what we were talking in years 2 and 3. Well, that's what years 2. Year 3, I was saying 9 wins, and they got that. In year 2, that's, yeah, you can give me 6 or 7 wins. That shows growth. We're in year 6. You better pull at Indiana. That's what they better do. Yeah, I mean, Raiders don't have a head coach. If the Raiders are looking at Shedeur, and that's where Dion could be. He tore his Achilles. Yeah, I knew he tore something. Deshaun Watson's career might be over with, man. And isn't this like, didn't he already tear his Achilles, if I'm not mistaken? It's crazy. If TC can play like Jordan Travis, then we can easily end up 10-0. Hey, man, if ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunks. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, William. Damn. They just announced tonight that there will be no spring game this year because of the rent. Yes, I already talked about that, William. If you want to rewind, you can go check out my whole thoughts. But just a quick synopsis, no big deal. Half of y'all didn't like the spring game anyway, or the spring showcase. I didn't like it. And just because there's no spring showcase don't mean that there won't be spring practices, and doesn't mean that there won't be spring scrimmages. You just won't be on TV. They'll still get their practices in. They'll still get their work in. It's not a big deal. I agree with the no schedule. I think this is possible. Our fan base lets outside fan bases get in their head too much. I think TC is going to ball out. I mean, if he balls out, then if offensively, if he has a good season, then yeah, your offense should be. If Gus found his quarterback, which remains to be seen, and this guy can run that system and all that, yes, I'm with you. But like most offenses, it's going to depend on the player, the quarterback. I mean, I'm a little bit more reserved offensively because I'm just not sold on the quarterback. Now, if that O-line is for real and they can legit just run the ball 4 or 5 yards a pop, then that makes everything easier on TC as well. So you either got to be running the ball effectively, or TC's got to be elevating the offense. I don't know if he's going to elevate an offense. I think he can play well in the system if everything around him is clicking. I think he can be effective. I don't know if he's the guy that's going to come in and elevate an offense. So that's kind of just where I'm at with it. And then he retore his ACL. Okay, so he retore the Achilles. The same one? It might be time for Deshaun to hang it up, which is crazy because he's not even like old. Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, man, that's really all I got. Quick hour and 30, nothing too crazy here tonight. So yeah, that's it, man. Again, you went over a few guys they're targeting here down the stretch of the early. I keep saying early because I'm so used to saying the early signing period, but this is National Signing Day, and they are closing in on about 4 guys. They landed Antonio Cromartie Jr., who is in this class. Again, I thought he was next year. Nope, he's in this class. They again, Zahir Mathis, Sandman Thompson, Tai Haywood, and I always forget the UCF kid's name. I think it's Benson or something like that. Those are the 4 guys that they're trying to close in on at the end of this cycle. Again, if you go 2 for 4, I think that's a successful close. I expect them to at least get those 2 O-linemen, Sandman and the UCF deep commit. The other 2, Michigan seems to be all in on those 2. If you want them, you better pay for them. I think that's the only way you're going to really pull those 2 out. You're going to have to pay for them. You have to outbid it. Not saying that's the only thing that they're doing, right? Not saying that the only reason he's going to there is for the money, but let's not pretend like money don't play a part at Florida State. We'll see. We'll see how they close. And then the showcase. Again, the showcase isn't a big deal. Again, if I asked all 50 people to raise your hand and say how many of y'all actually enjoyed watching the showcase, out of the 50, I think less than 20 of y'all would raise y'all hands. And I'm probably being kind on that number. Probably be less than 10 of y'all would raise y'all hands and say y'all actually enjoy watching the showcase. So the showcase isn't a big deal. It would only be a big deal if you told me that the entire spring was canceled, which isn't the case. They will still practice. They will still scrimmage. They just won't be having a showcase in Doak Campbell for fans to go buy tickets and go watch. And again, that showcase don't make that team no better anyway. We've all seen the outcomes of that show. Like, no big deal on the showcase. So that's tonight's show. Terrell says, I think why people mad about no showcase is it. Yeah, I get it. From a monetary standpoint, I get it. Not being able to go and spend your money. Like, I get it. I do get it. If that's the problem, because you don't get to go tailgate, you don't get to have that fan atmosphere in the spring when everybody's kind of in the doldrums of football. That spring and that summer, that's where it hits, where it's like, there's no football. And that gives you that taste of football. You can go tailgate, link up, have a good time. I get that. I 100% get that. And if that's what you're upset about, that makes sense. I'm talking about it from a pure football standpoint. It is not a big deal. From winning and losing football games, the spring showcase is not a big deal. As long as they're still getting the work in the spring, that showcase is irrelevant. Murray says he misses it every year. Can't stand anything less than, yeah. I mean, most of us, I watch it every year, and I'm bored every time I watch it. I hate watching it. Since Mike Norvell's been here, I've hated watching the spring. Just don't like the way it's run. So I won't be missing it. Game 1, Bama. That's when you'll see this team on the field. This brand new, revamped, new look football team. Game 1 against Bama. Hope Mike Norvell's ready. Man, as always, I'm going to get on up out of here. Again, just wanted to do a quick hour and 30, so we knocked that out the park. Still on the road, as you can see, in the hotel. So I'll be back in this lab in February. As always, I'll try to bring y'all something every week while I'm away, and we're pretty sure there'll be more things to talk about as we continue along. But as always, man, it's your boy POLK over here on H63 Seminole TV. Y'all stay classy, Seminoles, and we are out here. Go Noles. Before you get out of here, again, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. And I'll catch y'all again, man. Y'all have a good rest of y'all night. Stay warm as it continues to freeze